Listen up, people. Manscaped have done it again. This time, it's the Chairman Pro, giving you a clean, close shave. The Chairman Pro is waterproof. The Chairman Pro has long-lasting battery life. And you use the code FTM20 and you will get 20% off of this product. Yes, big up, people. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all well. And Merry Christmas to you, and of course a Happy New Year in the next few days. I hope that you are all looking forward to having a few drinks, and to be fair, I hope you've all had a few drinks, as it is the last few days for me has been eating and drinking. Big up to everybody that's here nice and early. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure that you subscribe. This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Use the code FTM20 to get 20% off of those products. That is only available until the new year, so please make you do that. FTM20 is the code you need. Link is in the description. Take you straight there, and that link should actually give you 20% off automatically of their products. They've got the Chairman Pro for those that do not have a beard. If you do have a beard, it's the beard hedger that you need. If you want anything below the belt, it's the Lawnmower 5.0. There is performance packages that they're doing at the moment as well, so please make sure you go and check out their products. They've showed us some love for the last few months, so it's time to show them some love as well. We also have only a few days left for our reality raffles prize, which you do need to get involved in, people. Click on the link in the description or in the pinned comments of this section of this video. There is a huge instant win prize, the main prize being a football match day package up to £500. That is of your choice. It could be the North London Derby in the new year. It could be a game at the Etihad or at Old Trafford or at Anfield. I know if you're not a Kuna, that there are other fans that watch and listen to this content. So please make sure that you are in this to win it. There's a great opportunity. It's only 99 pence. And if you use the code FTM10, you'll get 10% off of that on top as well. So please make sure that you are in that. There will be a live draw on New Year's Eve on the social media of Reality Raffles. So please make sure that you do go and check them out. They've got other prizes over there as well. Football, sport, concert, gigs, music, anything that you are into, they have opportunities over there. So please make sure that you are going and giving them, showing them some love. Reality Raffles is what is needed. There's some instant win opportunities as well. There's 100 match day vouchers of your choice and £125 in cash as well. So please make sure that you go over to Reality Raffles. Links in the description or pinned in the comment section here. All you've got to do is click, use the code FTM10, and you'll get 10% off of the tickets. Please make sure that you are in it. If I get so many people ask me, how do I get to the Emirates? How do I get to a game? Well, there's a great opportunity there. So please go and click in the description and get your ticket and make sure that you are in it. Okay. Now that we've liked, now that we've subscribed, now that we've checked out both Manscaped and Reality Raffles, it's time to talk Bukayo Saka. It does not look good, people. There is a very, very, very huge concern about the future of Saka's injury, what it looks like. Mikel Arteta being very coy for the first time when asked about it. But let's be real, he wasn't too coy. He's played his cards close to his chest from the majority of the questions that he's asked. But that interview sounded very much like he is going to be out for quite some time. And it looks like the surgery has had to take place on the hamstring, which if you spoke to or listened to me and Lee Judges earlier, we were talking about it. That is definitely a long time out. There's no denying that. I don't think that Mikel Arteta has even tried to deny it, to be fair. It looks as if he could be out for some time. He's definitely going to be out for a couple of months at the bare minimum. Mikel Arteta saying that it could actually be more and more likely to be even more than a couple of months. So, yeah, it doesn't look good. It's been reported yesterday on his press conference, or in his press conference, should I say, that he had a procedure. Everything went well, but unfortunately, he'll be out for many, many weeks. I think it will be more than 2 months. Let's see. It's very difficult to say. Now, that means that he's probably going to miss January, February, and I think the majority of March. Does that mean he's out for the season? Well, a lot of people are saying no, it doesn't. It doesn't mean he's out for the whole rest of the season. But what it does mean is that he's going to struggle to get himself back to the level that we are wanting him to be at for a title push around March, April, May. That is just something that I've written off now. There's no way I want to see Bukayo Saka rushed back and potentially out for longer. Serious one. It's a serious hamstring injury. And people, when you say hamstring injury, they think, oh, a couple of weeks. Yeah, it is if you like strain it or if you feel a tweak. If you tear it and you need surgery, that is a very, very nasty nasty injury, and one that I think will potentially keep him out for the majority of this season. I've written him off now. We've got to now look at how we can work through these games without Bukayo Saka. And do you know what? This day was coming, people. This day was coming. It was. I don't want to admit it. I don't want to be one of those guys that said, I told you so. But we did not do enough to protect him. We just didn't. We didn't do enough to protect him. I don't think we've ever been fair when it comes to Bukayo Saka. And the stats prove it. You know, I brought this up earlier. Big up to Albert, who's in the chat as well, who sent this to me. Bukayo Saka's appearance percentage, Mikel Arteta, in all competitions in the last 6 seasons of Mikel Arteta being here. When he came on the scene, he still played 82% of games. 82% of games. When he into the top 4 race and played just under 80% of the season. And then we went into title races. And for the last 3 seasons, we've seen him being over 90%, 95, 98, 90, and 92%. That's not looking after your star boy. That's not looking after and trying to protect the player that you believe is your most important. He has been magnificent. There is a culmination of problems here. Playing that many games is definitely on the manager. Playing that many games is definitely on his international manager. And playing that many games, you have to stay. As much as I don't blame Bukayo Saka for wanting to play, he has to be vocal. He has to communicate it more and say, look, boss, I am more than happy to contribute as best I can, but I'm absolutely screwed here. I have played an unbelievable amount of games for club and country. We've got to the finals of the Euros. We've got to the finals of stages of trying to win a Premier League 2 years in a row. I just need a bit of a break. Just give me 3 games off and I'll be back. Now, those 3 games might be key, but you'd rather miss him 3 games in 3 months, right? We need to look after him more. The other thing we haven't been able to do, and due to these stats, is we haven't been able to replace him in the transfer market. And what I mean by replace him is not make him a sub. People sometimes get confused and think, well, how'd you get a Saka in? You can't. Yeah, you're right. You can't. You absolutely can't. There's no way you can get a Bukayo Saka, right? Absolutely no way that you can. But what you can do is you can get somebody that can be adequate cover. And I keep using this term, adequate cover, because we've had cover many a times. But we haven't had adequate cover, have we? We've tried, but they ain't been good enough. Marquinhos was not good enough. Fabio Vieira was not good enough. Reece Nelson deemed not good enough. And now Raheem Sterling deemed where Gabriel Jesus could have come wide. Martinelli could have played more on the right-hand side. We could have even used Nwaneri or Trossard. But we decided to stick with Bukayo Saka, and he has become so important. He has become so important. I'm not going to deny that and try and make out that actually we don't really need Saka and that we can actually get away with using him as more of a rotation. But I am saying that if you want to be making him the focal point, you need to look after him more. And that's what needs to happen. We need to look at, when he comes back, how do we prevent something like this happening again? Because if we continue to use him the way that he has been, he'll have a career that lasts until 26, 27, and he'll be done at Crocs, and he won't be able to last anymore. And that's not good for club or country. It's not fair for Bukayo Saka himself. Would another manager have looked after him? Well, a lot of people will say Arteta's massively to blame, and I do agree that there's definite fingers that need to be pointed at him, but Pep does this with Haaland. To be fair, Pep's done it with Foden. I think that you can say that Klopp has done it, and so now his Slot have done it with Salah and Van Dijk and Trent. It isn't just Bukayo Saka. The difference you've got is, I think you need to look at who they actually have to replace those players I've just mentioned. Last season, Julian Alvarez was there. Last season, we had Van Dijk and Trent that were actually had adequate cover in Gomez and Bradley, and also in Konaté, Quansah, and Gomez, who I've mentioned. You've also got to look at Mo Salah and say that he's probably the only one, I would say maybe, in the Premier League that I think gets overplayed. But he's an experienced 32-year-old, not a young 22, 23-year-old who's supposed to be starting his career. Salah didn't play this many games at 23. If I'm honest with you, I look back at the legends in Arsenal's history. Let's look at the right wingers in Arsenal's history. Did Sanchez play this much at 21, 22? Did Lundberg? Did Ray Parlour? Did Theo Walcott? I don't think any of those players did. All of those players were being moulded in at their clubs. Theo Walcott took ages. Everyone was crying for him to be starting games for Arsenal. I don't think that we could look back and say this many games between the age of 17 and 23. And games, it was easier to be looked after. I do think that they need to look at this now from above. I spoke to Gran Brooks this morning, and he made good points. Manchester City have lost Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, John Stones, ample others. Liverpool have lost Alisson, Jota, and Konaté. Arsenal have lost Erdogan, Saka, and more. And I look at it and I think, is that because we've just all been unlucky, or is it now because we're playing too much? Now, there's two ways of doing this. You can either shorten the amount of games or increase the maximum squad to register, which I think has changed from 25 to 27 or is changing. It needs to go up to 30, doesn't it? It needs to go up to 30. You need to be able to have a squad that's able to cope with you international domestic duties. And 25 players ain't enough anymore. They actually got a squad of 22. By choice, by the way. We need to look at that now. We need reinforcements in January. I don't care who it is or what position. It needs to be an attacker, and it needs to be a player that's ready now. And there are players out there. People will say to me, who? Who are you going to get? It's too hard in January. Nobody wants to sell. What, do they all want to sell in the summer? And Newcastle are going to sit there and go, yeah, get us in January. Oh, it's the summer. Right, come on in. Off you go, Isak. Where do you want to go? It doesn't work like that, does it? So in January, if there is a player that you want, you might have to pay. Shock. You might have to pay a bit more. But there's players available. And I'm not talking about going up to Real Madrid and asking them whether we can get Vinny Jr. I'm not going up to Barcelona and saying, do you fancy selling us Lamine Yamal? I am talking about players like Kuna from Wolves. I'm talking about João Pedro from Brighton. I'm talking about Brian Mbeumo from Brentford. I'm talking about Semenyo from Bournemouth. We're talking about Mohamed from West Ham. There's none of those players that I look at and go, nah, no chance. No chance they come into Arsenal. They're at Wolves. They're at West Ham. They're at Brighton. They're at Bournemouth. No disrespect. Some of those teams are doing very well. But let's just have it right. They'd come to Arsenal. Cunha's not going to go, oh, Arsenal want me. Well, no thanks. I'll stay here at Wolves and fight for relegation. You think João Pedro's going to go, yeah, no, I don't fancy going and playing with Saka. I'd rather sit here and try and get in front of Danny Welbeck. Do you think Bournemouth are going to sit there and go, yeah, Semenyo, yeah, don't think you fancy Arsenal. Stay here. Come on. Let's be real. Let's be real. I agree, and I probably will say that this will happen, that in the summer, we will probably go and get the bigger player that we want. We'll probably go and get the player that we all dream of, more likely in the summer than in January. I could agree with that. But there's options in January. Two players I haven't even mentioned yet, right? Victor, Osimhen or Gyökeres, both got release clauses from what we hear and understand. So there's two players that are available. Go release the clause. Then they can decide whether they want to come or they don't want to come. They don't want to come. Release the clause and make them come. We're Arsenal. They're Sporting Lisbon and Galatasaray. Or Napoli, I suppose it is. Are we really saying that these two clubs are nowhere near when it comes to Arsenal? Arsenal should be levels ahead of them. We want that Napoli player. Oh, but he plays for Napoli. So? We want that Galatasaray or Napoli player. So? So what? Go and get him. Sporting Lisbon, go and get him. There should not be. I can understand if we're trying to get a player like Kevin De Bruyne from Man City, even if it was somebody young from Man City that we were trying to get, even if it was someone from Chelsea, dare I say it, you might struggle more. Some people think we might struggle to get Isak from Newcastle. I don't. I think he would come. But some people are saying that we would struggle with that. But when we're talking about going and getting strikers or attackers from Premier League sides that are in the bottom half of the table, that should not be hard to tempt them. And if we can't, I need to be looking at their jobs, man. I need to be seriously looking at their jobs, saying, is this actually what we have? This one comes in from Chaitanya. I don't know why my super chats are not being starred, which is a really strange thing. Maybe it's because you put it in before Chaitanya, but there we go. Saka injury will be recurring. It's not just about a backup now. We need a player that's better in that position. Rodrigo from Real Madrid. January is crucial for the Premier League. So listen, Chaitanya, I kind of half agree and half disagree. I think that you're right about Saka cover. I don't think that we're going to be able to tempt a top elite Rodrigo level winger. I think it might have to be somebody in the bracket down, like a Semenyo, Kudus, Kuna, like somebody like that for me. Nico Williams is one that I find interesting. Hasn't had a very good season though, and doesn't really have his heart set on England. I think he wants to stay in Spain. So I think that could be interesting. But look, if we're a serious club, Chaitanya says we have to. And I agree with that. I think we have to go big in this January transfer window and the summer if we're a big club. You know, a lot of people are suggesting that Kudus and Isak are the two that they want. They want Kudus and Isak as the last two missing pieces of the attack puzzle to play with Saka and Odegaard. And I think that sounds fantastic. I really do. I'd love that. Yeah, I think they're two fantastic players. But I don't think we're getting either of those in January, because I don't think that Newcastle and West Ham would sell in January, because West Ham's got the release clause in the summer, which is 85 million. And Newcastle know that they've got a great chance of keeping hold of Isak if they get European football, which I think they could do this year, the way they're playing. Could be interesting. There's a few more options. There is. So let's talk about them. Let's go through some of the transfer news, actually. We haven't done this for a long time. My transfer news shows will be coming back, people. So please do not worry. They will be coming back every morning. So I'll get into a nice little routine again. But Kuna is somebody that is 100% mentioned and keeps getting spoken about. However, Wolves are not ready to entertain offers in January for Kuna, with Arsenal and Manchester United both interested. Now, this would be a very good signing. I like him. I think he can actually play as the 10, the 9, and probably the left, if I'm honest. So this would be a versatile player. I don't think there's a Arsenal fan that would disagree that this would be an interesting signing. He's young. He's got a lot of potential. He's balling out for Wolves and they're struggling. My only concern with Kuna, how clinical is he? Because I had problems with Gabriel Jesus and his clinical issues. And I think in the last couple of games, he's proven that he can still score goals. But Kuna, what are we thinking? Do we think this would be a good signing? Is that a signing that you look at right now and think, yeah, let's just do it because, you know, he's better than what we've got? Or is he a player that we really think can take us forward? I think he's potentially a player that raises our squad, not our first 11. And that might be a little bit harsh on him because he has been very good for Wolves. What can he do in an Arsenal shirt? I think he's got more potential than some of the players we've got in the front line. I'd rather have him running at goal than Havertz, Jesus, Martinelli. Trossard, maybe he's dropped off a bit, but if I'm honest with you, it's going to be an interesting one, this one, because I think they will ask for a lot of money. I don't think they're going to, if they sold Pedro Neto for 50 million, they're going to probably want the same for Cunha, I imagine. Similar. So this could be a lot of money, but that's not a lot of money when you think of it, when we haven't spent much. So that could be interesting. There's also the news of Colomawani. Now, Colomawani is a player that we've been linked with before. He's hopeful that United can beat Chelsea, Tottenham and Arsenal to the sign of him in January. Amorim wants him. Amorim is a player... Colomawani is a player that Amorim is hopeful that Manchester United can sign. But Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal are also interested in the forward. Now, I looked at his stats, people. He ain't doing too well. Let me just bring his stats up because I'm sure he scored 2 goals so far this season. I might have got that wrong. Maybe I was looking at the wrong thing. But I am sure that he hasn't done too well. He's 26 years old. He's played 4 Champions League games and he's not scored or assisted. He's played 10 games. He's scored 2 goals and 1 assist. That's not great, is it, PSG? That's not great. I don't know that I'm a fan. I don't know that I'm a fan. And I think that might be a bit harsh because I'm sure he's a good player and I'm sure that he's got potential to get even better. But at 26 years old, scoring 2 goals in 10 in the French league, which everyone calls the Farmers League, it doesn't impress me. Again, we sign somebody like him. I don't think that's going to raise the seed. I don't think that's going to get us across the line. I don't think it's a first teamer. I think it's a squad raiser. But what do we want? Do we want a first teamer? Do we want a squad player? Let's be real. Like, what do we want? I want a striker that's ready to start right now. But unless it's Gyökeres or Osimhen, I don't think we're going to get that player. I just don't. City, Liverpool, Madrid, and PSG are considering whether to make a January move for Musiala, who's valued at 150 million. Now, this I actually think is a mad amount of money. I'm a fan. I like him. Think he's a good player. But I've got to be brutally honest with you. I prefer Florian Wirtz. I think Florian Wirtz is a better player. From what I've seen, glimpses of both players, I prefer what I see in Florian Wirtz more. That's what I will say. But I don't think he's going to be leaving Bayern Munich, if I'm honest. I think he's going to stay. City could look to trigger Zubimendi's release clause in January. That's something I can see happening. Liverpool also interested as well. So that could be quite an interesting one. And then up here, we've got some more news. Trent Alexander-Arnold asking to go to Real Madrid. I don't think that's a big shock, if I'm honest with you. Tomori available for £20 million. City of interest for James McAtee. Calvert-Lewin could agree a contract, but he's also being linked with Newcastle and West Ham. And then above here, there was something about. Here we go. Skriniar, who's been made available for 29 million in January, is attracting interest from Spurs and Arsenal. Now, look, I don't want any more defenders coming to Arsenal. However, if Tierney and Kivior are being allowed to leave this January, we might need to get one in. We might need to. He's a beast of a defender. He's not one that I love, but he's not one that I'd hate. So that one is just a bit of a nothing rumour and a bit of a nothing signing potentially. And then, of course, there's Jonathan David, who is... Oh, that's updated. I've missed it now. Here we go. He's keen on Manchester City. And Jonathan David, at 24 years old, is actually balling out for Lille. And there's been a good player for club and country for quite some time now. I don't know how much he cost, but he's a free agent in the summer. So probably not a lot. And that could be something that we look at as well, because he's a player that has been scoring goals and is at a good age. I don't mind him. I don't love him. It wouldn't excite me, but it's better than having nobody, I would say. And I'd rather get somebody like that, than Rashford on loan. I don't want that. The other bit of news that's just come in is about Kieran Tierney, who'd be willing to reject other clubs in favour of a return to Celtic, which, to be fair, I expect him to do now. I expect him. I think he will go to Celtic. I don't think there'll be any... And there's no part of me that believes that he's not going to go to Celtic now. I think he's going to go back home and try and revive his career, which I understand from Kieran Tierney, you know? I do. I get it. I really do. Let's bring in some of these super chats. Brian says, shut Saka down for the rest of the season and focus on the cups. We can't ruin his career by rushing him back. I totally agree. I totally agree that we can't rush him back. I really do. And you say focus on the cups. We can focus on everything still. We're still in everything. And I think sometimes I look at the performances more than I do the results and what we're doing this season. And I look at the bigger picture because I've seen this movie before. So people might look at this and go, why is Dan upset? Why is he moaning? Third in the new format of the Champions League, semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We're in the FA Cup, and albeit we've got Manchester United, I fancy us to win that. And we're second in the league. Can't be that bad of a season, can it? And then you actually add the context and you think, yeah, we ain't playing too well. We've got some bad injury problems. Saka looks like he's out for a long time. Erdegaard's only just come back. Timber's had a long layoff, and we've got to look after him. There's a few injury-prone players in this squad still, like Jesus and Partey and Tomiyasu and Calafiori and Zinchenko and Tierney. We need potentially to look at selling a couple and buying a couple in January. That's not happened yet. We're 9 points behind Liverpool if they win their game in hand against Everton, which I imagine they will do. Oh, actually, it doesn't sound too good, does it? So, look, at the moment, it's all a little bit of this could happen. What I could also say is flip that and go, do you know what? A couple of players come back from injury. We get a couple of players in January. Arteta finds a style of play that was electric and scintillating in 22-23 and at the back end of last season. And we go on and we finish the season strongly. We win a couple of trophies and we're only just going to finish off of Liverpool. Or dare I say it, we jump ahead of them. And then everyone's like, what was the problem about? That's the fine margins of football. But what I will say is this. Mikel Arteta needs to win something this season and challenge. Both of those things need to happen. Craig says, Dan, Man United. Why can't I click on that? There we go. Craig says, Dan, Man United Newcastle prediction. And you, us in the cup. Okay. I think we beat Manchester United by 2-0. I don't think they're good enough in front of goal. I think we can get at their back line. And I don't think they can control their midfield at the moment. The system's going to take a while for Amorim to settle and for him to shift out what he doesn't believe is good enough. Against Newcastle, I think Newcastle have a better attack than Arsenal with Isak and Gordon. I think they have a more balanced and settled midfield than Arsenal with Tonali, Bruno and Joe. Newcastle can be got out at the back. At the Emirates in the first 2-1, but then we go to St James's Park, go through. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say, bro. Newcastle, you know I am. You know I am. AMD says, what do you think of signing Tyler Dibley? A very talented young player with a lot of prospect and a lot of promise. He ain't ready to come in and go for a title. He isn't ready. And I saw Jamie Gittins being mentioned. I've seen Tyler Dibley. I've seen youngsters being linked with Arsenal, which is always good. We're buying them alongside what we're going to get. But you offered me Tyler Dibley or Semenyo, I'm taking Semenyo. You offer me Diblin or Kuna or Perchal, I'm taking all of them over Tyler Diblin, man. But big up to you, man. I appreciate the super chat. Make sure you've got nearly 300 people in here. Make sure you hit the like button, please, people. Get the likes well over to 150 if we can. We're not even hit 100 yet, so let's do this and let's get this sorted. So what do we do for now? What do we do for now? Because Saka's out. We can't sign anyone yet until the 1st. And we need to now look at what we can do in the coming games. Because as much as we now don't play again until, the January transfer window starts to open and we can look at what we are doing in the cup competitions, and there will be for that as well. We have to look at what we can do until we can get players in. Because even if we sign somebody on the 1st of January, they're not really going to be fit to play until the cup games start, which is the following week, right? So I think we need to look at what we can do in the Brentford, the Brighton, the Newcastle, the Man United games. We've got options at the moment. And last night, I didn't like the option he chose. Havertz in midfield. I've said that. I don't rate it. I don't without Partey in the middle, if I'm honest. Rice was immense. But this is what I'd like to see moving forward. When everyone's fit, we obviously wouldn't go with this. With Saka and Ben White and Tomiyasu and all the players that we've got out. When they're all back, we might look to change things up a bit. However, this is what I'd do right now. Raya would be in goal. Timber has to be right back. My left back would be Calafiori. but I'm a big fan of Skelly, which I'll come on to in a bit. Gabriel and Saliba as centre halves. Partey, Rice, and Odegaard as a trio. But I would have Partey and Rice in the double pivot with Odegaard in the 10. Now that we've got Saka out, I think he's got to use the left and the right and spread across both flanks. So for me, I'd use a double pivot of Rice and Partey where I think they're both best. And then I would have Martin Odegaard in that 10. And then I would have Jesus on the wide right, Martinelli on the wide left, and Havertz through the middle. And I understood why he went with Martin, but he needed to drop one of the other players. Yeah. He needed to play Martinelli right if he wanted to, with Jesus left and Havertz through the middle and bring on Trossard. Or he needed to start Trossard left, Martinelli right, and Jesus up top and drop Havertz. But unfortunately, he's dropped Havertz into this midfield role, which I just don't like. Yes, he scored. Well, brilliant. He scored a goal. He's a genius then. He's on ex-Gerrard. No, he's not. The guy is not good enough playing there. He is only a number 9. He will only ever be a number 9. And for me, he's a number 9 that you bring on, not one you start. Or if you do start, he comes off. For me, I don't like him in the number 10, the attacking 8, the midfield role. It just doesn't work for me. He gets in the way of people. He doesn't link up the play as well as people think. He's always on the floor. For someone who's 4, you'd like to think he's got a lot more strength than that. He goes down so easy. Try to on the ref all the time and getting fouled. Just get up and get on with the game, man. Frustrates me. So with Sterling being out, we haven't really got much from the bench, people. We've got Leandro Trossard. We've got Ethan Nwaneri. So I'm not too good with that. I don't. And what I see from the bench, Marino and Partey coming on when it's 1-0 against Ipswich at home, that really doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence in Mikel Arteta as a manager. I do believe he would still rather hold on to the 1-0 than go and try and win 2 or 3. I still believe that is in his mind. It's like he's had PTSD or something. That when you go 1-0, just try and win that game 1-0. Don't go on to win it 2, 3, or 4. I don't remember the last time we went to do that, to be honest with you. Because even against Crystal Palace, it wasn't like we were 5-0 up. Against West Ham, they almost come back into it. It was 3-2 at one stage, right? Or 4-2, was it? I can't remember. Either way, we need to blitz teams because we're good enough to. I've seen Havertz banging goals in. I've seen Martinelli score 15 in a season. Likewise, Odegaard and Saka together, all 3 of them did. I saw Jesus gets double figures. I've seen Declan Rice get 7 or 8 goals in his first season. Premier League goals. We can blitz teams. We can. We need to bring that back. We need to bring that scintillating form that used to blitz and scare teams. In 22-23, teams were looking at us. Someone needs to beat them because they're really getting on my nerves now. They're playing very good. They're really scary. Arsenal scary. Everyone was saying it. Arsenal was scary. We ain't scary this season, are we? We ain't scary. We ain't scary this season. Ipswich were not scared yesterday. They were before kickoff. And you know what they said in the 90 minutes? Oh, I was hoping it wasn't going to be 6 or 7, but after that performance in the 90, I'll take the 1-0 because he didn't really look like you're doing much more. Gabriel missed the header. Rice and Odegaard had a couple of shots over the bar. And the other stuff, Muric just literally saved. There was one volley from Rice, I think, that he saved. Most of the others were parried or collected by him. It was simple. So there weren't much difference between Everton and Ipswich, and that's the worrying thing for me. That is the worrying thing. The other thing that worries me, and Gran Brooks brought this up, and it is a good point. In his press conference, it seems like he is completely and utterly against the 25 goal a season striker. It's like it's against his philosophy. He doesn't really want that. He wants there to be goals by committee, which we can still have, by the way. People think that when you have a Haaland, it stops everyone else from scoring. But it wouldn't with Arsenal. Saka would still get goals. Odegaard would still get goals. In fact, they might get more with a focal point up front. And it doesn't have to be as much of a focal point as Harry Kane or Haaland. Because when people say that the striker that gets you 30 goals a season is the focal point, well, Thierry Henry wasn't the focal point. Sergio Aguero wasn't. Wayne Rooney wasn't. Players around them all scored goals. When Rooney was scoring, so was Tevez. So was Cristiano Ronaldo. So was Ryan Giggs. When Aguero was scoring, KDB and David Silva were still scoring. Raheem Sterling was still scoring. Even go back further when Yaya Toure was going on, popping up with goals. Bernardo Silva was still scoring. When Arsenal were at their best under Thierry Henry, it wasn't just Thierry Henry scoring. Yeah, he got 30 goals, but Pires used to get 10 to 15, as did Freddie Ljungberg, as did Dennis Bergkamp, as did Patrick Vieira. So why is it that we believe that once we get a striker, no one else will score? It will just be us. Just be him. Oh, it will just be Isak who scores. No, it won't. I think he's the perfect mould for what we need, by the way. I think Gyökeres would give us something a little bit different. But I like him that he's more all-round. Isak, I think, would be perfect for how we want to play, how Arsenal fans want us to play. If you put Isak into that 2023 Arsenal side, I think we waltz the league. I think we absolutely walk it. And that actually Arsenal can do bits. Arsenal can. There is definitely enough quality in the Arsenal lineup. And if you look at the stats, it proves that we've done well, right? It proves that we've done very well. Arsenal stats in the Premier League in 2024, let me read them out. We've got the most wins with 26. We've got the most points with 85. We've got the most goals scored with 89 goals. We've conceded the least goals with 25. And we have the best goal difference, plus 64. So the form is there. The performances have been there. They haven't always. I think sometimes we've been not lucky to get across the line, but we've certainly had a couple of opportunities that I've looked at thinking, we'll take it. I'm not really interested in getting too excited like last night. I don't think there's been many games this season that I've walked away from thinking, wow, we blitzed them. That was unbelievable. And Arsenal were back. I think when we see it against Forest, Sporting, Palace and West Ham, I think we started to look like we were getting back into the swing of things, but then we still had those results at Fulham and Everton. We've had too many at the moment, if I'm honest with you guys. We've had way too many. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that we can't seem to go on a run of more than 4 or 5 games. So Lee Judges said he wanted to get 10 wins, but we drew to Everton and Fulham. Yeah, the unbeaten run still goes. We're still there or thereabouts in terms of moving forward. But I just don't know, man. I feel like there's no confidence in me going to games at the moment, believing we're going to put 3 or 4 goals past teams because our attack just looks a little bit blunt. So look, let's bring up our fixtures because we have got some interesting fixtures coming up, to be fair. And if I'm honest with you, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting 6-7 weeks. I don't feel like there's much that we can not look forward to be fair, because it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. Let's bring this up on screen so we can go through them together. This is from the Arsenal website. So let's go through just the Arsenal fixtures. I'm not looking at Liverpool's. I'm not looking at Chelsea's. I'm not looking at City's and all the other teams. At the moment, I'm just focused on Arsenal. People keep saying to me, do you think that's it for the title? Do you think this is it for the league? I said, look, before a ball was kicked, I didn't think we were going to win the league. I didn't think we did enough in the transfer market. That was with Bukayo Saka and Odegaard not getting injured, by the way. If we do not do anything in January, I'm going to say that I think we'll struggle to have a very positive season. But on New Year's Day, in the evening, we go to Brentford, which is going to be a tough game. Brentford, I think, have only lost once at home, and that was to Forest. Brentford have also been very, very good in front of goal. I think they've scored the most goals alongside Chelsea and Liverpool and us. I think they're up there with stats-wise. And Buemo's been unbelievable. Visa's been superb. Defensively, I think they've been a good unit, and they're a well-drilled side under Thomas Frank. That is going to be difficult, but we have to win. We won last year. Was it 1-0 in the last kick of the game in November time with Havertz with a header? I think that was the last time that we played them at the community stadium. We need to win that. We must win that game. Then we go to Brighton. 2 away games next. 1st and 4th of Jan. This is never an easy place, but last season we played so well and we deserved to beat them. But it hasn't always been easy there. In fact, I think they've beaten some big teams at their ground over the years. But is it a good time to play Brentford and Brighton? I would say it is. Brentford have come off the back of some dodgy results. Losing to Chelsea, losing to Forest. They're at a good time at the moment to be hurt. Brighton, likewise, haven't really been the Brighton that you would expect to see. Losing to Crystal Palace and losing to Newcastle and losing to Who did they draw to the other night? Was it West Ham? They're not in a good place at the moment. Not in a good place. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but I'd like to think that we can win there. I would. I like going there as well. It's a nice ground. It's a lovely place as well. And I'll be going to this game. And I always believe it's a nice place to go. They drew with Brentford. Sorry. 0-0 last night. I wanted to double check that before I said it, but they did. So that one will be tough. And then we come to the cup games. Now we've got Newcastle at home. And I think we're going to have to go for this one. He's going to have to play Raya in goal because Neto is cup tied. He's going to have to play Julian Timber at right back because there's no Ben White. I think he'll play Lewis Skelly at left back. And I think he'll probably play Kivior alongside Saliba. For whatever reason, he wants to play Kivior in this cup. Now, if Kivior's gone in January, he might play Calafiori and Saliba together. He likes to give one of his centre-halves a break, it seems, in this cup fixtures. He'll probably play Jorginho instead of Partey, but I imagine he'll probably play Rice and Ødegaard, or he'll play Wanyeri and Ødegaard. I mean, he could play Marino against Newcastle. We've got some options in that midfield to rotate, but I think he'll rotate. But up top, I think he's got to play Jesus, Havertz and Martinelli. That's what I think he's got to play. Because at the moment, we ain't got time to muck around. Now, look, by then, we might have another player. I don't think we will. But by then, we could. And that could make it interesting in that game. But we have to be going into St. James's Park winning this tie to get to the final. We have to be. Then we've got Manchester United on the Sunday at 3 o'clock on Sunday the 12th. And that is at home at the Emirates against Manchester United. Again, I think we'll rotate. I think a few days later, you might see some of the players coming back into the mix there. I think you might see the likes of Thomas Partey in the middle. You might see Declan Rice playing alongside him. You might see Gabriel and Saliba coming back into the mix for this game. I think it's about how we rotate. But there ain't much rotation happening until we go to January. Because at the moment, we know what the team's going to be because we haven't got much after it. And then it's the North London derby, which is where I'm going to stop. Look, these next few games could be absolutely pivotal. Because if we go on a run and we beat Brentford and Brighton, we're looking at what Liverpool have done. We go into the new year and we could be closer to Liverpool and further away from Chelsea, City and the other guys. We beat Newcastle. We go into that second leg thinking, interesting here. We can really get through to the final. We beat Manchester United and we're still in the early stages. So we might get actually an easier opponent this time, touch wood, if we do get past United. And then we win the North London derby against Spurs. And all of a sudden things are looking good. Now we look at the other side of things. We don't beat Brentford and we don't beat Brighton. We're completely out of the title race and we're looking at a top 4 race. And that will be confirmed, by the way. There will be no way that we can drop against these two sides unless Liverpool did. We lose to Newcastle means we've got to then go to St. James Park and win, something we haven't been able to do for 3 years. We lose to Manchester United, we go out of the FA Cup. And we don't beat Spurs in the North London derby. Trust me. By the 15th of January, fans will either be happy or they would have fully turned. These next few weeks are absolutely pivotal, people. Pivotal for our season. Because if you go out of both domestic cups, you start dropping points in the league, you've basically got the Champions League or bust. And that starts up again in the next few weeks, by the way. We've got Girona away for our last game. Before that, we've got Dynamo Zagreb. Let's just be real. We should be beating both of those, even with Saka out. And then we go to see who we get in the Champions League after that. So listen, this is absolutely pivotal in the next 4 or 5 games of this season. That might be a negative way to look at it, but for those that are just joining in, I did go through positives to start with about how I believe that we can beat Brentford and Brighton, how I believe that we will beat Newcastle at home in the first leg and draw in the second leg and go through. how I do think that we'll beat Manchester United at the Emirates and go to the next stage of the Cup, and how I do think that we're going to qualify for the top 8 of the Champions League and go through in that new format. So if I would have said to you before a ball was kicked that we would get to the new year, be second in the league, a few points off Liverpool, be through to the last 8 of the Champions League, go through into both domestic cup final with the Carabao Cup final and in the FA Cup still, I think he would have taken that. So let's hope that's how it ends, because you see him. My last section before we come to a close. A lot of the times we speak on the pitch. A lot of the times we speak about Mikel Arteta. A lot of the times we talk about the players. Absolutely bang on, that's what we should be doing. But we don't often mention what happens off the pitch. But I'm going to do that now. I need to see the Kroenke show ambition here to win the title this season. And I'm talking about the Champions Leagues and the other trophies as well, by the way, because that means that if we do nothing in January, they're not interested in winning anything because the squad's thin. The squad is bare. The substitutes bench has proven that. Mikel Arteta has said that we've got a small squad. He keeps saying it. We've got 22 players. He can't be clearer. We need players. We need reinforcements. And the people that we need help from are our ownership. They need to dip their hand in their pocket. They need to allow us to go as close as we can to the mark of the PSR and bring in players that can improve this squad. And if the answer is we've skinned and we can't do that because of PSR, they've really ballsed up the last couple of windows then. Because look at the state of the squad. And PSR says we can't spend any more because, look, you spend it on this dross. And I know it's harsh because I don't think Marino and Calafiori are dross. Sterling's not even been given the chance to prove if he's dross or not. But it ain't been good if you don't trust Raheem Sterling. If you still don't trust your youngster in Ethan Nwaneri, you need to go and get players that you do trust. I want 22 players that he trusts and believes in. Not 15 players that he trusts, but the other 7 that he don't really believe in. I'm sick and tired of that. I need to go and get a couple of players in January that I look at and think, do you know what? As an Arsenal fan, I think we've got a good enough squad here to win something. I still think we can win a trophy this season. I just don't think it's going to be the Premier League or the Champions League. I still think we can win the Carabao Cup. Of course I do. Getting across Newcastle in 2 legs and winning at Wembley. Absolutely, I do think that. I do. I think Liverpool beat Spurs, so I think it'll be Liverpool that win that to get to the final. Then it's on Arsenal, right? But I think we're good enough to win the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup or both. In fact, I think a domestic double would be a fantastic season, right? Maybe we can repeat it from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, should I say. 93, 94, we won the double, didn't we? Yeah? The 2 domestic cups, both against Sheffield Wednesday in the finals. Everyone remembers it who was around to see it. It's the first trophy or 2 trophies I remember Arsenal winning. Then in 94, the season after, we went and won at Parma. And that was the start of my winning understanding and mentality at Arsenal as well. We win stuff. We win trophies. Let's go and win them this season. Let's go and win them this season. Real talk. Let's go and win them this season. I need to see it. It has to happen for me. And if it isn't the domestic cups, if it ain't the Premier League, it has to be the Champions League. And people will say, well, that's impossible. Look at the heritage. European heritage of Arsenal's a mess. Yeah, I would agree with that. But how do you change that? By winning in Europe. You change it by winning in Europe. So for me, we absolutely have to. We absolutely have to. And I think it's a must win for one of the majors, but I will take a domestic cup and challenging as a fair season. That's what I would take. Apologies for the problems with my stream. It must be a StreamYard thing or a Wi-Fi thing, so I do apologize. I think there's been some problems today, someone said, with YouTube or StreamYard, so potentially it is that. And we're going to wrap up there anyway. Listen, thanks so much for your donations. Thank you so much for super chats. Thank you for all your comments. Make sure you do me a favor. Make sure you are in this opportunity. It's being drawn on New Year's Eve, people. There's a massive instant win opportunity. If you want to get to the North London derby, if you want to get to a football match of your choice, if it's an Arsenal game, so be it. Make sure you're in this prize draw. It's 99 pence a ticket. It's nothing. All you got to do is click on the link in the description or pinned to the comment section here, and it will take you straight there. Use the code FTM10 to get 10% off, and you can get a ticket. It is well worth it. There's an unbelievable amount of prizes as well. Make sure you're following Reality Raffles. They've got brilliant, brilliant prizes. Make sure you're doing that, people. Reality Raffles on Instagram. Make sure you're in that to win it. FTM20 for manscaped.com. Make sure you click on the link. It will take you straight there. Get the products that you need. And listen, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next time, people. We are done in a bit.